Hello, everyone, and welcome to another talk here. So, we're going to think about spelling tones. Um, so I named this with the idea of having a kind of a specific practice kind of thing to do. So there are many ways to really kind of spell tones, just kind of in general. We can use letter names, so C, E, G. Let's say for spelling out some chord tones, something like that. Use numbers, which we're going to talk a lot about. Right? You could use solfege, do, mi, sol, ti, do, and all that. All right. So, but what I want to talk about specifically today is mainly taking a chord, maybe a triad or a four-note grouping, maybe, or something like that, and spelling out something that's not maybe directly the chord itself, and spelling it relative to that chord. So, for example, let's say we had a C major triad, and we wanted to talk about an E minor triad on top of that sound, right? So what we could do, instead of calling the E minor, root, flat third, fifth, okay, we could spell it relative to C, which would be 3, 5, and 7. So that's a really kind of closely related example, but I want to get into some other things as well. So I'll just mention before I go on, I'm recording this. This is a live stream for the member area and YouTube, and but I'm also recording it for podcasts. So if you want to listen to it when you're away from a screen, also a way to get the word out on the member area and things that are going on. So if you do first happen upon this as a podcast, then check out the full video version. So the live stream is available for replay. All right, so I've got kind of a close-up here going on the guitar here, and so start with that, and I'll adjust things just a little bit around here. But I will be keeping this kind of audio friendly, so all right, so that should do it okay. All right. Okay, so all right, so let's take that one example. We had the C, let's say C major 7 now. Right? And we're thinking about E minor triad. And then we could do all the inversions of that, right? So we can take that triad and spell it relative to the root that we want. So it's a C, right? So that E would be the 3, G would be the 5, and B would be the major 7 of that chord. Now we could spell these out in a couple ways to maybe try to arrive at some of this. So you could go up in thirds and create a triad based just to kind of in the key of or mode of whatever you're working on. So let's say C major or C Ionian. So you have root, third, fifth. So then you practice, root, third, fifth, and then you practice maybe the inversions of that. Okay. And, kind of all over the neck and everything like that. And then you kind of go up. So like we did earlier, they have the E minor triad, okay? And then kind of go up the G major triad. See how that relates. So that's 5. And here's the practice kind of challenge is take, okay, well, I know this is root 3, 5, but relative to C, the root, it's going to be 5, 7, 9. Okay, and then you can go ahead and, again, do all the inversions that you need to do. Okay, and to keep taking that up in thirds like that. So, okay, so then we would start on the B, right? So we start to get further and further away from the chord itself. We're going to have a lot more tensions now. So we end up with a B diminished triad, right? So that's going to be a little outside of this sound, right? And so you keep going up on this in this pattern. So now we do D, F, and A. Okay, so when you get to D, F, and A, you're playing, at least as far as triads go, you're playing things that are just not in the chord, like not non-chord tones. So if it's a basic C major 7, then none of these fit into any of those 4 notes. So surveyor notes here on this. So I'm playing a root position, drop 2, voicing here, middle 4 strings, 3rd position. Okay. So survey the notes from low to high. We have G, B, and E. Right? So none of those notes are here, but they're still in the key of C. So D, F, and A. Okay. So then you kind of have the sort of the extreme, at least within the 7 notes of the scale that we're talking about. All right. So then you can keep going, of course. So F major. So notice on F major, we're starting to get a chord tone again, right? We end up with C because we have F, A, C, but the F is pretty out. The A is really fairly consonant on the sound, and then C, of course, is the root, right? And then A, C, E. We have, and I should have been spelling that out. So that's 4. So for the F major triad, let's go back to the D. So for the D minor triad, that's going to be 9, 11, 13. And then F is going to be 11, 13 root. And then for the A, it's 13 root 3, right? And then we're back full circle. So doing each one of those and then, experimenting with those, maybe putting a backing track and playing this chord sound, and doing all the inversions and trying to cover all the parts of the neck and everything. That's kind of the practice idea for that. Right, and then kind of the concept being that we can hear how each one fits or doesn't fit into the chord sound itself. And you could take different processes on this. So you could say, okay, I'm going to do C. Maybe I want to go the circle of fifths, right? So and maybe not even do a triad. Maybe do 4 or do triads or whatever you like, Okay, you could do a diatonic. Or you could try and play around with doing maybe even just major. And just seeing how that sounds, and going completely, if you go completely around the circle of fifths, maybe trying 4 different triad types on each one, you'll have a really thorough kind of thing happening on how certain things sound on different chords. So of course we have the different chord qualities that we can use as well. Okay, so this kind of gets back a little bit to a talk that we had with superimposition, and we were referencing the Dave Liebman book, Chromatic Approach to Jazz Harmony and Melody. So check that out. I'll put that in the description here in a little bit. But right, so when we're talking about that kind of thing, whether we have this kind of simple tritone substitution sort of thing, or some really kind of embedded progressions or what have you. If we could spell things out relative to the original progression, then that's very helpful. So let's say D minor. Okay, so that's the original progression. So we talked about D minor to G7. So let's say that the tritone substitution. So if the chord player is playing D minor, right, and you're playing, let's say an arpeggio on A flat minor, I want to be able to spell that out relative to D minor. So if you have, see these tones, relative to itself, the A flat minor, right, this is root, flat third, fifth, flat seven. But when you hear it, you could hear it in the context of the chord that we're playing, right? And that's part of the appeal, I think, of this as well. But when you play that sound against the chord, each individual note is going to sound like a certain relationship to the chord. So like this note, that's going to have that kind of sound. So it's going to be a flat 5 kind of sound. This one, relative to the D, is going to be the 6 or the 13. A flat 9, right? That's going to be very dissonant. And then this is going to be a third against a minor, right? So that is going to be very dissonant, right? Because we've got that. And, you know, so that's what we're going to hear on a note-by-note basis. But that's what's kind of interesting about doing what he's saying here, which is that you're getting something familiar from a triad, let's say A minor triad, you have or A flat minor triad, excuse me, and then C flat major triad collectively. But that's going to have a certain sound against this, right? So that's the point of kind of what we're saying here in this talk, is try to work on and knowing how to spell something out relative to anything, really. Right, and then the D flat 7, same kind of concept, right? So if the chordal player is playing G7 and the improviser is playing a melody and they're playing D flat 7, again, we're going to have that flat 5. The flat 7, that's nothing too out of the ordinary. Flat 9, that's a dissonance. And then the third, so that's interesting, right? Okay, so that's kind of the idea on all that. this kind of interesting thing as far as the practicing goes on this is that you can also use this to strengthen knowledge of any chord changes that you might play on any tune. So you could say to yourself, okay, so here's a concept. You can say, okay, well, I'm going to treat the tonic chord as the thing I'm going to spell everything out relative to, right? So say, okay, well, this is just going to be root third, fifth, no matter what. So then when you get to that first change, F minor, 7, you spell it out. You can try spelling it out relative to the tonic. So we say, okay, 4, flat 13, root, flat third. It kind of gives us a little different insight into it, or it might cause us to arrive at some insights. Right. So same thing with this chord, right? So you can say, okay, flat 7, 9, 11, flat 13. Okay, and kind of heading back. Okay, and then here again too on this change, so we say flat 7, flat 9, 11, flat 13, and you can kind of get a sense for how that's pretty distant, right? Same here, so flat 3, 5, flat 7, flat 9. Right, and then you can make different judgments on, well, was that further away from the tonic or maybe closer to the tonic? And then just paying maybe special attention to certain tones, like that E flat in this chord exactly. So here we have a C minor triad, right? So it's like, okay, well, maybe it's almost like a parallel minor situation where we have that, but kind of over A flat. So it's a sub median, chromatic submedian. Right, so then you can spell that out. Flat 13, root, flat 3, fifth. So we're just spelling everything out relative to the tonic in that case, right? So many different things that we can do to strengthen our knowledge, of maybe theory, but also strengthening our ear. So if you maybe loop C major, and then play through the changes of Lady Bird, play through the changes and improvise, and just listen to how that's interacting with the tonic chord. So all right, everybody. So it's kind of Christmas, New Year's, holidays, kind of break here. So things might be a little bit irregular with the schedule and everything, but let me know if you have any particular things you want me to cover for sure. I'll be glad to do that. So we'll call it a day here for today, and thanks for your membership if you're checking this out on YouTube, and invite anyone who's checking this out on the podcast to join there and check it out. All right, everybody. I'll see you all in the next one. Have a great practice session. I hope this gives some ideas and gives you some things to work through.